Hello, everyone. I watched the entire Democratic convention, first night, second night, third night. I posted a video at the end of the first night expressing how much better I thought it was than the Republican convention and how excited I was for the rest of it. So now I'm going to make a speech, or I'm going to make a video on the rest of the speeches. The main ones, of course, are, of course, you have Bill Clinton, who, my views are mixed on Bill Clinton. Because excuse me. You know, he didn't do healthcare, he didn't manage to do healthcare in 1994. I know that it got a lot of opposition. I know that, there was a lot of force working against him, but I think that, I think he could have worked a bit harder and just shoved that through all the way back then, so we wouldn't have to be talking about it now. The other thing, Michelle Obama's speech was excellent, of course. That's really nonpartisan. You had Deval Patrick, who I liked. You had Elizabeth Warren, of course, who I'm in love with. You had Julian Castro, who was very good. As I said, the Democrats found their first Hispanic president tonight. There's no question about that. Unless he screws up between now and then, there's no way that he won't be the next. There's no way that he isn't the Hispanic version of Obama. He's gonna... You will see him run for president. I guarantee that. Let's see, what else? I want to return to the Clinton thing for a moment, because, Clinton did manage to do a reasonable system of taxes, and he did do a lot of good things, but he also seemed to sell out the Democratic Party. He triangulated, He said, he did the thing of governing from the middle. Now, that can be effective, but I think that it was, he moved the Democratic Party, I think, too far to the center. I think it's good to have two parties, both who are very passionate about their principles, but then they come down to a table and they end up somewhere in the middle, rather than have a party that starts out in the middle and then hopefully you get something close to what they wanted. I think it was better when you had Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. Two people who were very different, but they eventually ended up at something. I think we should have two parties that are very different. And I think Clinton he did it for political reasons, of course, because it's easier to give up tough issues than to convince people you're right. He gave up gun control. And he did DOMA. He did the Defense of Marriage Act, and he did Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Now of course he may regret those things, and he may say, well, that was then and this was now. But you know what? Any person who was actually liberal back then would have said, no, Don't Ask, Don't Tell is not a good idea, and DOMA is not a good idea. Clinton was, he sold out the Democratic Party's liberalism. So I didn't like that. But he gave a good speech. And he's one of the few people I know who can hold a crowd for 48 minutes. He's one of the few people I know of who can hold a crowd for 48 minutes. And he held me for 48 minutes. And it was full of facts, and it was a very informing speech. So overall, I liked it. And then you had Joe Biden's speech, which I wasn't a fan of. Joe's not the best speaker in the Democratic Party. I think he's a good vice president. I think he makes a good advisor on foreign policy. I think he's good at helping to run a government, and he was in the Senate for 36 years. He knows the connections and the friends and all that stuff. He was good for that. But he's not the guy that you bring out to rally a crowd. Now, he did seem to do it because, he kind of has a captive audience there, and he's their vice president. But I wasn't a fan of his speech. And then you had Obama's speech. Now, Obama's speech, you could tell he was campaigning to the middle. And I understand why. From a political standpoint, I understand why he tailored a speech that would try to get moderates into his side, because the sad fact is, and this is why I don't like the setup that Clinton had, Clinton knew that he could move the Democrats to the middle and not lose his base, because his base has nowhere else to go. Real firebrand liberals and progressives don't have anywhere but the Democratic Party to go to, so they're going to stick in where they are, even if the party moves to the center. So, I understand for political reasons why he's doing that, but it kind of annoys me. And I understand why in election year, because his base is going to vote for him, but the moderates can still say, well, I like Romney because he's a businessman and blah blah blah. It's the middle, it's the moderate independent voters that are going to decide this election, as they do almost every election. So he has to campaign to them. I understand that. Now, was the content of the speech good? Yes. And I thought the delivery was good. It wasn't a firebrand speech like he used to give in 2008, but it was a good speech. And he definitely did a very good job. It was way better than Romney's, can I say. The whole convention was better than the Republicans, anyway. He really hit Romney on foreign policy, which I think is the best idea for them. If they could have this election on foreign policy, I would say go that way. But the fact is, people don't pay attention to foreign policy. People vote their wallets. So I don't. Now, hitting him on foreign policy is good because it makes Romney look bad in general, but it's not what's going to decide this election. And we got the jobs report out for August, which wasn't good. It said the economy only added 96,000 jobs. Now, unemployment did go from 8.3 to 8.1, but that's because a lot of young people left the workforce. Now, that's not good, but as the opinionated Democrat on Facebook pointed out, I'd rather be gaining 96,000 jobs than losing 750,000 jobs, as we were at the tail end of the Bush administration. So it really is a choice between a horrible economy and an okay economy. And Obama did kind of do a good job of laying out, this is what we're going to do in the future. That's what this whole convention was kind of about. These 4 years have been rough, but over the next 4 years, it's going to get better, and we're going to keep moving forward. Their campaign slogan is forward. So, do I think that this will have a generally good effect for Obama in the campaign? Yes, I do, because people who watched both conventions, watched the Republican, watched the Democratic convention, it was a stark difference. It was night and day. So, the Democrats put on a much better convention. Oh, and a couple other people I want to note. Jennifer Granholm gave a firebrand speech. It was amazing. She was rallied up. I'm surprised she had a voice the next day. She was worked up. John Kerry actually gave a good speech. I was surprised about that. I wish he had acted better in 2004, but he gave a very good speech. One of the best lines out of the convention, the Republicans had been saying, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? No, you're not. John Kerry said, ask Osama bin Laden if he's better off than he was 4 years ago. One of the best lines out of the convention. So, overall, the Democrats put on a very good show, and I was impressed. Interestingly, Obama and Biden and Clinton were not the people who did it for me. It was Elizabeth Warren, it was Julian Castro, It was Deval Patrick. It was Jennifer Granholm. It wasn't the main guys that did it for me. It was some of the lower people. Ted Strickland, former governor of Ohio, gave a very good speech. So I think they have a lot of people in their party that they should sort of bring to the front more often than they do. So that's my general thoughts about the Democratic National Convention. I'll be making more videos about this election as it goes forward. Have a good night.